China makes everything except for AAA games. Today we are talking about the first AAA game that China has made, Black Myth Wukong. Black Myth Wukong was released on August 20th, 2024, an action role-playing game that some would call a Souls-like. That's some being games journalists. Today we are going into the development of Black Myth Wukong, the controversy surrounding it, the gamers that don't care because they just want to play games, and my first impressions on it. The developer at Black Myth Wukong started their studio in 2024. Made up of former Tencent employees, they set up their studio in Shenzhen, China. Shenzhen, China is a technological city with many other tech companies operating there. It's what you would call a Silicon Valley of China. The first game that Game Science produced was called 100 Heroes. It was a mobile game, and their second game that they developed actually had some traction, and it was called The Art of War Red Tide. Art of War is a free-to-play game that has been in early access hell since 2017. This is an RTS game that has mixed reviews on Steam. People actually seem to like it, but they state that the game needs major updates and say that it could have been something special. Others hope that the money Game Science makes from Wukong will allow them to come back to the game and make more updates, but I think it's probably a dead game. These two games are a far cry from the ambitious project that they would release a 13-minute trailer on in 2020. Black Myth Wukong is an action combat game that draws inspiration from a journey to the West, a 16th century Chinese tale during the Ming Dynasty that has a mischievous Loki-like monkey. I say Loki-like because Wukong's shape-shifting abilities, though their personalities and motivations for what they do don't exactly align. We see in the game that our protagonist prefers a simple life rather than craving godhood and just wants to chill with the homies. The trailer was received well, especially because it was gameplay as opposed to an elaborate cutscene that just shows visuals and doesn't tell you anything about the game. I was hyped for the game because by the time I saw the trailer, I had just finished playing my first Souls game, Demon Souls Remake. I had never played any Souls game before unless you would consider Sekiro and the older Ninja Gaiden on Xbox 360 to be a Souls-like. Throughout the years leading up to its release, Game Science would slowly trickle out hype for what it was working on, releasing a limited demo that you could watch content makers play on YouTube and give their takes on it. People also called this the first AAA game from China, but I think Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail are also AAA games. I don't really play them, but they cost a lot of money to make. So I guess when they say Black Myth Wukong is the first AAA game from China, they are not including games that can be played on mobile with gacha mechanics and waifus. Game Science would also face a little controversy due to an IGN article basically accusing them of sexism. This is because IGN got a hold of an article that Game Science's co-founder wrote where he compares canceled games to stillborn babies, and several other remarks where he makes innuendos. They also had some recruitment posters and ads as well as other crude remarks. This is all according to the IGN article. No picture of these ads were included in the article. The original article was refuted by a Chinese YouTuber named Fifi, where she stated that IGN article got several things wrong. She states that IGN mistranslated some of the words from the developer, but indicates that the remarks were vulgar but not sexist, and that some of the remarks are more like Chinese idioms not to be taken literally. This person who wrote the article, Rebecca Valentine, kinda ignored that fact and states that she went to see Game Science for an appointment she had with them, expecting them to comment on their allegations of sexism, but they told her they would only comment on gameplay. Which I think makes sense because they are about to release a game and want to talk about the game. She also says there are no femme-coded characters. I'm not sure why it was necessary to say that. Who cares? It's a game based on a 16th century story with a monkey as the main character. And people just want to play games. When I saw Wonder Woman, I didn't think to myself, these Amazonians, they don't have any male-coded people on the island. I just watched the movie and waited to see what happened. Is that something that IGN readers were actually concerned about? Because I doubt it. But then again, I didn't start reading game articles until I started this channel. I get most of my news from randoms on YouTube. Screen Rant also factored their review score based off of female inclusion. While the author of their review stated that they judged mostly off of gameplay, they felt the need to bring up that it lacks diversity in characters. Complaining about not enough female characters, there aren't enough female bosses. Well, basically, they just said it wasn't any female characters at all, but there are female characters in the game, so I'm not sure how far they got in the game. If they just played like 30 minutes of it and then wrote a review, or if she's just backing up her buddy, because there are female characters in the game. Not a lot, but you know. I disagree with that being factored into the score of a game review, but they're entitled to their own opinion. But most gamers don't care about that. At some point, are you writing for yourself or are you writing for your audience? Do you think that the information that you provide in your review is necessary to make an informed purchase of the game? I like to listen to reviews about the game, the graphics, the sound, as opposed to how many men or women are in the game, but maybe some people like that. But that's their prerogative. I just won't take a review seriously if that's factored into the score because I care more about how the game plays. The reaction to the article from gamers have been mostly negative in my corner of the internet, which is probably biased and is curated by my own opinions. There could be gamers who really care about this kind of stuff, I just don't know about them. Gamers just want to play games usually, and they prefer the games journalists talk about the actual game so that they can make informed purchases. The last few games that received somewhat negative press have all become great sellers, as is the case with Black Myth Wukong, reaching an all-time peak of over 2 million concurrent players on its first 24 hours, making it only second to PUBG, beating out Palworld, who had the number 2 spot on Steam. But of course, this is just Steam numbers. We haven't even factored in any type of, PlayStation numbers. I have been playing action combat games and action role-playing games since I was a wee lad, and I know about difficult games. Before Dark Souls, there was Ninja Gaiden. That's how far I go back. I'm talking Ninja Gaiden on NES and PS2. So Wukong stands on the shoulders of giants.
修得大手接佛力，邪风一死也就齐。哪知不测其祸，其待兮，那黄毛孽虫。
My early thoughts on the game are that it's visually stunning and that they use Unreal Engine 5 right. Some games that are made in UE5 have kind of a similar looking style. This game does not suffer from that. It was a beast on my computer though on the 19th when I played it. But when Nvidia dropped their driver on the 20th, my problems with frame dip seemed to kind of stop. And with frame gen on, very high ray tracing off, I have it on low, I get a good 120 FPS. I have a 4070 Super Ti and a 64 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM. I play on 1440p, again ray tracing on low, but I also play on a 65-inch Samsung TV. So it's not like a game monitor with the lower latency, but it does have game mode on it. I think the ray tracing really shines in this game and that the god rays that it has. The gameplay is great, but I'm very early in and I just finished Shadow of the Erdtree before this, and I had to untrain my brain from the way that things work in that game as opposed to this. This game has a talent tree and you don't lose your runes / spark / XP upon death, but it does have a bonfire mechanic. You get some of the boss's powers when you defeat them, and they are actually quite useful, though short-lived. They run out after a little while. I have a wolf form with fire blades that can burn an enemy, but if you take too many hits, you will revert back to your monkey form, or if time runs out. I kept getting my ass kicked by a big blue baby until I decided I would go to the boss and get his power, then come back and fight it. I did that, came back, got my ass whipped some more. I hear others had no trouble with him, but I watched Asmongold get smacked up a few times to feel good about myself. Then I came back and beat him. The sound is beautiful. It's that older Chinese film sound. Think Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. You know that you are playing in a setting that's distinctly ancient China by the sound. Also, the sound when you hit an enemy is good. And when they are about to hit you, there are cues like you hear a bear growl right before he's about to swipe you. The way that you do upgrades is satisfying. I look forward to getting skill points to upgrade my stances. You also upgrade your equipment as you go. You aren't necessarily picking up loot as much as you are picking up willpower and crafting materials. I have a job, I go to the gym after work, so I'll take a long time to finish games. But while I'm at work, I'm thinking about coming home and playing this game. Any game that gets me to think about it like that, I give it at least a 7 out of 10. But coming off of Shadow of the Erdtree, it's been a great year for games. And I say right now I give this game an 8 out of 10, but I'm not finished with the game, so that's just an early score. It costs a kilobyte to like, it costs 2 kilobytes to comment, it costs 3 kilobytes to subscribe. Do whichever you like.